Good morning, world. It is Monday morning, and how was your weekend? How was your weekend? I hope it was good. We didn't do too much. I had a bit of a girls' day out for lunch and shopping with my two oldest daughters. And apart from that, we just did house chores. So this morning I wanted to talk about money. 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 What we spend our money on. It's funny as well, like when you've got kids, you try to, instill in them some responsibility with pocket money and money they get, gifted for birthdays and things like that. And you try to be a good example, like even just pointing out, things, not to be wasteful, and, money doesn't grow on trees, and, this costs this or this costs that, and, you try to get them to understand how money works, to be responsible with money, even how to stretch money, how to be a bargain shopper, all these sort of things, not to be, too wasteful. And, my girls are funny when they have money, they just want to go out and splurge, it's like, oh, I want to completely redecorate my bedroom, or just things like that, right? Like my oldest daughter would want to go on a shopping spree with her friends, and things like that. And because it's Christmas coming up soon and everything, it's that time of the year. And even though I did say that I would be more responsible this year and try to prepare for Christmas much earlier, start buying things earlier through the year, so that when it came to Christmas time, it wasn't so, immediately stressful. Because that does tend to happen, doesn't it? But I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And, in our family, we have everyone's birthdays at this time of the year. So like from October to January, we have everyone's birthdays, except for me and my currently youngest daughter. We're in May. And and we have a big family, and this year specifically was maybe a bit more expensive as well, because it's like birthdays. Like I don't do that for every birthday with the girls. It's like specific ones. And, then we've got Christmas, and then, I am pregnant, and we have been, having to reset up for a baby. And because, this was a lovely surprise. And I did not keep anything from my currently youngest daughter, who is, will be 4 in the new year. Anyway, so yeah, we have a whole baby to set up for as well. And there are just other things around the house and stuff that, needed just like better storage, better organization, and some furniture things that needed getting. And so, everything adds up, doesn't it? Everything adds up. And, I was just listening to ABC Classic Radio, and but in the mornings, and they were just talking about on the news about how prices in regional Victoria for rent is increasing so much, and it's not matched by wage increases, and that's like cost of living too, isn't it? Cost of living in general has increased faster than people's wages have increased. So people struggle more. And really, you should be bargain hunting, and really you should be preparing for things throughout the year earlier on, so that it doesn't hit you as hard when it actually comes, like whether it's a birthday or it's Christmas or Easter or holidays, things like that. Like we even have to, put money aside just for school holidays, Christmas holidays, school holidays, let alone your bills and things that rack up, don't they? The rental prices are, very steep, especially if you've got a bigger family, you're paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds per week. You would not be able to pay less than approximately $500 a week. Really, you probably wouldn't. Also, it's like some of the houses that are on the rental market as well are going downhill, aren't they? They are very old houses that don't have very good insulation. So you have to have, maybe room heaters or electric blankets or just your house heater going the whole time, to stop the frost, to stop the cold, to stop mold, all sorts of things. We previously lived in a rental house that was, it was like we had to constantly fight mold because the house was so cold and damp all the time. And yet they can still charge what they charge for rent, can't they? And yeah, even buying a house, my partner and I talk about this all the time too. And when you look at houses, for sale, and let's just say, for example, there's a house for sale for, let's just say it's like an older house and maybe it needs some work done. And it's on the market for $450,000. Okay, and it's like a weatherboard house. Do you think that it's worth $450,000 if you're probably going to have structural concerns, because it's a wood house, a house made of wood framing, and it's ancient, basically. It's ancient. You know, they put a fresh lacquer of paint on, and maybe spruce up the garden and sell it for $450,000, which you're not paying $450,000, are you? You're paying so much more than that, because you have to get a mortgage through a bank who's going to charge you so much interest. So much interest. You are basically paying like double, you know. So is that old weatherboard house that could be pushing, you know, well, let's just say it's 50 years old, right? Do you think that 50-year-old weatherboard house that might need restumping, that might have structural concerns, you know, sometimes these houses are like slumping on one side, you know, carpet's probably really old and needs replacing, probably needs paint inside as well, probably needs renovating with the kitchen, laundry, bathroom, and then you've got outside, you know. Is it worth that, what they're going to charge you, the bank? I mean, I wouldn't even say it was worth the 450, let alone what you would end up paying with a mortgage. And so this is like, you know, this is what my partner and I, we talk about that, and, you know, we haven't made the leap into a mortgage because I feel like it's a rip-off. I feel like it's a trick, you know. And obviously, you know, property investors and you know, banks and things like that, it's a good game for them because they're in the market of making a lot of money for themselves, aren't they? You know, they don't care that you're paying nearly $1 million for a poor quality house that you have to keep putting money into to stop it from falling over, or going mouldy in your children's bedrooms, or paying, you know, ridiculous amount in electricity to keep it warm. You know, they don't care about any of that, and it seems like a pyramid scheme, or it seems like, you know, just like daylight robbery or mafia behavior or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, okay, well, you could invest in, you know, one of those big builders that do like bulk houses all in the one area. You know, where you drive in and it's sort of cat boxy, isn't it? And all the houses kind of look the same, even if they tried to change the facade a little bit here and there. And you know, you could buy one of those, right? And at the moment, they're kind of talking about all these different government schemes that you could be eligible for. You know, because they're trying to basically make it look like the government is helping people get into their own homes and helping families get, you know, their own family home. Because there's a housing crisis, and there has been for so many years. It's not new. It is not new. And there is absolutely not enough government housing to help people. I mean, that is so terrible, especially when you think about the fact that a particular premier of Victoria in recent years spent $80 million, roughly, approximately around that, on Asian elephants. Asian elephants during the pandemic, so that when we had Chinese counterparts come over to the country, they would feel more welcome. Apparently, that was his words. Pretty sure. Anywho, yep. So you could invest in one of those cat box houses where your neighbour could basically hear you fart, and you've got small little grassed courtyards as a backyard, and you're still, being charged easy 400, 450, for your basic standard, nothing special there, cheap carpet, cheap fittings, etc., no landscaping, etc., cat box. And that's not really what you pay, again, is it? Because you don't have $450,000 just sitting in your pocket. You've got to go to the bank, and you'll be paying still like double. And with some of these government schemes, I'm pretty sure as well that it's basically like if you're paying less deposit and you don't meet normal requirements for getting a mortgage, so the government's going to help you. I'm pretty sure it's basically like a caveat situation where, if you don't make your payments and whatever, basically, the government can come along and take that property. You and your family are out on the curb. Yep, they'll take that property. And you've helped them, in a transaction of obtaining a new government housing house. I mean, again, I feel like all these things are tricks and scams, and not really looking out for the success or well-being or benefit, or however you want to describe it, of the Australian public. And yeah, I mean, even with owning a house these days too, I grew up thinking that owning your own house was, financial security, home security, being able to design things, do things, how you like, getting creative, all those sort of things. But, really you have to ask permission from your local government, your council, to do anything. And, some councils, or I don't know if it's all, but, they even have rules that you have to follow for particular areas. They have like how they want that area's aesthetic to be. So you can't build something or do something that is too different from all of the houses in your street or in that area. You know what I mean? And yeah, so you have to actually be careful about even where you buy, especially if you buy land and you want to build and you think that you're going to be building something really super creative there, and like my partner and I, we've been really into the architecture, the design, and all that of like earthship homes, and I don't know if they're just called underground homes, but like homes that are basically, they look like they're a hill from above, even with like wildflowers and stuff all growing on top, but then like your house is underneath. and it's supposed to help with insulation and stuff, you know, like warmth in winter, coolness in summer. And the same thing with, you know, cob houses or mud brick houses and straw bale houses and all these like really creative homes that you can see all over the internet. They're so amazing. And yet, like, yeah, if my partner and I really truly wanted to build something like that, we would have to move to, I'm pretty sure we would have to move to either Tasmania or New South Wales. I think that's the two places that I've heard that you're allowed a bit more freedom like that and people build houses like that. Excuse me. Yeah, so, you know, and my partner and I, we kind of have conversations where, like, especially recently, like this year, where, you know, we came very close to, my car just keeps, like, making that beeping sound even though there's nothing there. Yeah. So my partner and I, we have been talking a lot recently about, you know, like, is it worth getting a mortgage and, you know, yeah, okay, ticking that box in society, right? You certainly look more successful, don't you, if you have a house that you own outright and you're paying a mortgage off just like everyone else. Or do we spend our money, still mindfully, but spend our money on just experiences and things that make all of us in our family happy, and you know, holidays and you know, just other things, and then even plan for a different future, like I'm talking even, you know, the future of when children are grown and off in the world, you know, you have to think about that too. You know, your children don't stay little forever. And that's the thing too, you know, imagine you did spend nearly $1 million with a mortgage on a house, you know, specifically a house that was designed for how many children you have and all that sort of stuff. And just put years and years of breaking your back at work, you know, blood, sweat and tears into that mortgage. And then, you know, your kids grow up and they go off into the world and they move away and do their own thing and get their own places. And what are you doing with that home? You know, like, are you going to live in a 5-6 bedroom house, just you and your partner? You know, is it worth it at that point? Or is that like, you know, you're going to have to sell and like downsize to a little unit or something? You know, and then my partner and I, we have very much got like gypsy feet, gypsy hearts. You know, we want to travel and do all sorts of things. And, you know, I became a mother young in life. You know, I was 22 when I had my first. And, you know, even where we live now, like, this is not necessarily, you know, I don't really see myself even like spending my old age here. Like, if I could just like wave a magic wand, you know, and have my dream sort of older years in life, it would be my partner and I traveling around in either a, you know, motorhome or a with a caravan, and a full drive, and just sort of living wherever and traveling around the whole time, being nomads, like the grey nomads of the road. Um, and um, you know, even if it would be great to have some sort of online gig that you earn money from as well, so that you were able to support yourself through that way. But otherwise, there's jobs everywhere. There is jobs everywhere. Like, you could literally just like take off one day in your car and, find yourself wherever in a town and get a job doing something that's enough for you to buy more fuel and feed yourself, like if that's what you were doing. Or you could have a traveling business, like a food trailer, a coffee and food van, or things like that you could like attach to your car. You could do things like, if you make stuff, like I'm a maker. I'm very much a maker. I'm always knitting, crocheting, drawing, painting. I want to make things with wood, just stuff like that. And my partner is very creative too. You could sell things at markets. There's markets everywhere all the time. And then you've got online, I just feel like maybe people should be a little bit more considering what is expected of you to tick today's boxes, whether or not it is responsible even to get yourself into the housing market with a mortgage, whether it's worth it, or is it a rip-off? I even think about like how many times one single house is bought and sold, right? For a particular price. Is that house worth that? Like probably millions of dollars at that point. Is it? When it's like an old rundown, weatherboard house, or you have to spend so much money like demolishing and rebuilding from the ground up. And I mean, it's just even, building permits and planning permits and, your rates and just everything. I mean, I just feel like, and the government is like basically talking blasé about, oh yes, there is a bit of a housing crisis, isn't there? Oh yes, there is a bit of a cost of living crisis, isn't there? Oh, we don't want to talk about it too alarmingly though, because we don't want anyone to be looking at us of what we have allowed to happen. I mean, yeah. And then like if you've got, parents or grandparents at a certain age, they kind of are looking at us as well of, oh, why haven't you got a mortgage yet, or you haven't settled down into your own place yet, and things like this. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that the financial situation is quite different to when they were buying houses and working. And yes, I know the money was different and all that sort of stuff, but I do recall watching a video or reading an article where somebody had worked all that out, and we were basically living through a dark ages financially in comparison to what our parents and grandparents worked and bought houses and lived through, raised families through. So even for them, like, they don't understand maybe, but times are financially tougher on people nowadays. And I've read other articles with the generation younger than me talking about just basically having lost hope for their futures, because they're out of high school, they come out of high school, and then they're expected to basically go into tens and tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt to continue their education through university so that they can get a good job in a field that they're interested in and is supposed to provide some, financial security in their life, job security. And then, they've got to get probably a car loan too, don't they? And they've got to start, working and paying rent and bills themselves and all the other cost of living things themselves. And otherwise, what are parents supporting their children all through their years of university education? I just mean, like, it seems very bleak, yes, for people trying to, like, transition even from, like, high school to adult life. And then before you know it, you've got so much financial responsibilities and debts and bills and, financial expectations on you. And, you're paying all that off. And then what? You've got to, as soon as you can, get into the mortgage, housing market, and they do kind of push at certain times, don't they? Oh, the prices are all going down right now. You better quick, you better jump on it, but then that bubble pops and, things go sky high or interest rate goes sky high, but you've already been locked into that mortgage now, and just, it's just, I don't think it's worth it. And, it would be worth it if you were just born into money or you came into money and you were able to buy property, invest in property as like investment and you were renting it out and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, of course, you're in the money game. But I'm talking about everyday people, and families and stuff like that. But, you're paying just as much for rent as you are for a mortgage. It's just crazy. It really is crazy. And I'm trying to keep my mind open. We have, we have a home and enough security here that I don't feel immediately under pressure to be looking for another home, whether it was a rental or a mortgage. And right now I feel like it's important just to invest in things that make my partner and I and our children happy, and on experiences, memories, and things like that. Well, I have probably dribbled on. Probably talked too long. But I do have to go. And I hope you all have a great Monday. Mondays don't have to be so bad. I know it's probably because of the, back to slave life after the weekend. But, try to see your blessings. Try to have a positive attitude, positive outlook on life. Maybe try to keep your mind open too, people live in different ways all over the world, don't they? And even right in front of you. And, we don't all have to be doing things the same way. It's your life. It's your choice. It's your design. And you can be proud of yourself in life too, for whatever way you choose to live. You don't have to be living the way other people are living. in order to feel proud of yourself, and you know, that you're a good person or a good parent or anything. And you know, I could talk more on that, but anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. You all have a good day, and thank you for watching.